Yes, sir, we can start the meeting.
Pavitra, you are on mute.
Thank you, sir. So, thanks for it. So, let's start with the session. Good evening to one and all present here. I, Pavitra, on behalf of final year MAHRM, BG Vaishnav College, welcome you all for today's Diamond Jubilee International Conclave on the theme Global Human Capital Trends. I'm extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to address you all on this great occasion of 75th webinar series of our PG Department of Human Resource Management. On behalf of the department and institution, I extend my special welcome to our HOD, professor, panel members of today's session, and all the participants. This meeting will be recorded for educational purposes. Prayers work wonders, and to begin with a positive note, I would like to call upon Ms. Ottara of final year MAHRM to sing the Invocation Song. Over to you, Ottara.
Vignesham Pramadadipam Ganapatim Ekadantadidevam Siddhisham Parashudaram Shivasutam Vidyapradam Mangalam Sindhurangam Trinetram Lambodaram Durvadalamoditam Herambam Vakratundam Varadabhayam Gauriputram Namami Namami Namami.
Thank you, Ottara. Now, Bhagyalakshmi, can you please share the screen? Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce our head of the Department of Human Resource Management, BG Vaishnav College, Dr. N.C. Martin. He is a highly experienced academician and has about 24 years of academic and administrative experience as professor, HOD, dean, and registrar. He did his postgraduate in labor management and PhD in labor laws from Tamil Nadu Institute of Labor Studies. He started his career as a lecturer from the same institution. He held various academic positions in various educational institutions such as Sri Chandraprabhu Jain College as Assistant Professor and HOD of MSW Department, Sam's College of Engineering and Technology as a Professor and HOD of MBA Department. He was also the Placement Officer for the entire division of Sam's College of Engineering and Technology. During his tenure, he successfully placed engineering and management graduates in top-notch companies in manufacturing and service sectors across the country. He continued his career in St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science as Dean of Academics, and in L.V. Prasad Film School, one of the best film schools in Asia, worked as registrar. He acted as a jury representing the Employer Federation of Southern India for the selection of companies for the Best Practices of the Year 2018-19. He has added number of research papers and publications to his credit, and he is expert in the subject of labor legislation and industrial relations. He has given centum results in various HR specialized subjects in the university examinations. We welcome you, sir, and I request Dr. N.C. Martin to speak few words about the topic for the day. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Pavitra, for the introduction. So very happy, good evening to one of our present here. So I welcome all the participants, our students, professor, HR fraternities. So on behalf of management, Sri Ashakumar Mudraji, our secretary, and on behalf of principal, Captain Dr. S. Santosh Babu, I'm very pleased to welcome our panel members, the resource person, who have accepted our invitation to conduct an international HR conclave. So I'm very pleased to welcome you all, sir. So this is our 75th webinar series. So this one we started the way back to our the pandemic, and because of the cooperation and the constant support we had from the people like industry people like you, and with our students coordinator, so we are able to successfully to reach this mark of the diamond jubilee of celebration of this HR conclave. So the topic for the day, the global human capital trends. So this topic is being a very emerging topic, and it is a need for the heart. And thanks for selecting this theme for this panel discussion. So the 21st century, the workforce we can say is global, and so they have been highly connected, and the current generations, no doubt, they are technically savvy. If you see the current workforce, so they are in the youthful, and they are very ambitious, and they have been filled with a lot of passions and purpose, and also they are very highly dedicated in their job. On the other hand, so out of the total workforce, the millennials are huge in number, but they are getting older. So, but they're also being engaged, and they also contribute a lot towards the organization growth. But actually speaking, the existing market, so it requires the new and the varied skills, where these required skills are found to be scarce, and they are also being distributed unevenly across the world. So, and having said that, the companies are also innovating new ways to develop and train their workforce. Parallel, if you see, the technology also made a tremendous impact on the businesses. So, and it has transformed the world of recruiting, and even the education system has also raised to the expectation of the industry standards, and the companies have started to train the workforce to meet the world of analytics, and even the way we work. On the one side, the demographic shifts, so they also been keep on constantly creating a diverse multi-generational workforce. So as these millennials are entering the job market in huge numbers, and they have been tapping the, and also they have been reshaping the talent market. On the other side, so the global, social, and also the political and the regulatory shifts are also being changing the focus of the businesses and the consumers. The consumers and the talent markets, so they have been making the new demands on business with the social and community concerns, so rising to new levels of the priority. I have already mentioned that technology changed the way of work, and the skills we need, it also keep on changing. So it has changed the nature of the collaboration, that is the expertise who have been sharing, and the sharing the skills one needs to succeed the collaborative technology, and this made the employer and the employee connectivity very easier and also accessible. So, and they could perform the task and the business operation in the remote location across the world. So the other emerging issues like the machine learning, where our Bhanu Kumar sir will be giving a lot of inputs on that and giving a lot of insights. and the artificial intelligence. So this machine learning and artificial intelligence are disrupting one way of workers, and it has created a new opening, a new career opportunities in analytics. So machine assisted manufacturing and the service and also the other allied industries. So the important thing to be noted here is that the skills we need today and the skill which is required in the future will be totally different. Today, we can see a lot of HRs. So they have to manage the people differently in terms of creating an opportunity to innovate, to transform, and also to re-engineer human capital practices. So realizing the situation, the HR needs to broadly think, and they have to gear up the leadership development at all levels. So they should build a global workforce capabilities to re-energize corporate, to re-energize in terms of the corporate learning by putting their employees in charge and also fixing the performance management. So the HR should also, they need to develop innovative ways to attract, to source, recruit, and also access talent. So they need to drive passion and engagement in the workforce. Recently, the companies, they have started to use diversity and inclusion as a business strategy, and they're able to find ways to help their employees. So these HRs, they should also need to create a global HR platform. So that is to be robust and flexible enough to adapt to geographical needs, to reskill HR teams and take advantage of the cloud-based technology, and also implement HR data analytics to achieve their business goals. So the other emerging issues is talent acquisition. So that is very important area, and it is very vast also. So this continues to be one of the very most important things the companies are doing. So in a skill constrained environment, a company ability to find, attract, and access so highly skilled people is posing to be a challenge for most of the organization in the emerging competition. So this area is going through a significant disruption as a result of the globalization, technology, social media, changing workforce expectations, and so on. The social media tools such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms have been changing their recruitment pattern into strategic functions, so pertaining to recruitment, marketing, branding, and so on. So finally, the other emerging issue where companies are facing around the world is there is a serious shortage of capable leaders to lead the organization, and this is emerging as one of the biggest threat to the growth of the business and the market. So we can witness as this challenge is acute today, and once a global recovery strengthens, so the company will seek to rapidly grow their businesses in markets, and these world leaders, so because they're going to retire at a faster rate. So no doubt the companies face leadership gaps at every levels of organization. So and these gaps can only be filled by the organization through a sustained and a systematic commitment to leadership development by identifying the potential leaders. So with this brief note, I conclude the sessions and leave to the panel members to proceed and to throw a lot of insights and inputs to a student and make this the HR International HR Conclave to be a grand success. So thank you, all the best.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your inputs on the topic for the day. It is my pleasure to welcome our moderator of today's session, Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan, Director HR, Gaius Networks. Mr. Chidambaram is a HR leader with 2 decades of experience and practice in the entire gamut of HR and IR across diversified sectors such as lubricating oil additives, service industry, textiles, and electrical. He holds a master's degree in personnel management and industrial relation from St. Joseph's College, Trichy. He is a senior certified professional from Society of Human Resource Management USA and has successfully completed executive development program in human resource management from Excel Lahare, Jamshedpur. He is a life member of various HR professional bodies like SHRM USA, NHRD, NIPM, and ISTD. Mr. Chidambaram is passionate about teaching and sharing knowledge. Also, he delivers guest lectures on various subjects to eminent educational institutes. He is an avid reader and ardent speaker on HR, management, and psychology domains. Now, I would like to request HR leader Mr. Chidambaram to take up the session further and facilitate the same. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Pavitra, for the wonderful introduction. It's more than an honor for me to be here to among this panel to deliberate on this emerging subject, evolving global human resource trends, being the 75th webinar. And as Sir was mentioning, they started it during the pandemic. And with the support of all the students and the faculty, this has become a grand success. So let me take the opportunity to welcome. So before I welcome the speakers, let me set the tone for today's session. So already Dr. Martin has set the tone. So I'll just give a brief holistic view of what we are going to discuss today. Basically, we are going to speak about digital transformation, analytics and artificial intelligence, diversity, equality and inclusion, evolving employer and employee relationship. So to start with the digital transformation, the most evolving trend which is prevalent today is big data. So under big data, there are 3 V's one should know. So volume, velocity and variety. Volume means the size of the data. Velocity is the speed in which the data flows, and variety. You can get data in any form, whether it is audio, video, social media, etc. The second one is the scalability and cloud. So with scalability and cloud, you have both flexibility and economy. That is the advantage. The disadvantage is privacy and security measures, especially with the global data privacy regulations, GDPR, which was introduced in 2018. So if you violate the privacy laws, there are hefty fines. So that is a cause for concern. So moving on to the diversity, equality, and inclusion. So basically, companies earlier had diversity as a compliance, but now it has become a matter of integration and transformation. So the companies are slowly moving into that. The 2 questions to ask are why we should have a diverse workforce, how it impacts the bottom line, how diversity impacts the bottom line. It's not only though you may not have a diverse employee workforce, your supply chain may be diverse, or your customers may be diverse. So one needs to have a global mindset, how you react to other cultures for business. So how diversity is adding value from a business perspective. So the entire HR ecosystem, right from recruitment to retention, how you are going to modify the system. So it's still an evolving area in HR. So companies are having diversity councils, diversity awareness programs, diversity management courses, etc. And you have this generational turnover, which also Sir touched upon during the introduction. And there is a cultural evolution which is happening. It is a ever-connected, instantly, constantly connected global workforce, 24/7. So there's blurring of personal and work-life balance. So evolving technologies are making the business very complex. So workforce diversity initiatives have become imperative. So it's basically, it helps you to access new markets and improve the bottom line. So it gives you innovation and creativity, and it adds value to the business. So this is an evolving subject. It's still evolving in the HR domain. Then moving on to analytics and AI. So analytics and AI is a competitive advantage for the organization. It should be a differentiator for the organization. It should operate in integration. It should not operate in isolation. It should be there in every function, not only in HR. So it's there from tribal to maturity. So there is a analytics maturity curve from tribal to maturity. Tribal is everything. It's a continuum. Tribal is doing everything manually, whereas maturity is the whole system is integrated. You are able to take evidence. There's something called evidence-based decision making. So what we know about in HR, what we know about people is not people. What we know about people is data. So you'll have to make a business case for each and every decision with the limited resources. And therefore, this analytics and artificial intelligence plays a pivotal role. So top 3 areas where analytics are used in the HR domain is, one is obviously everyone knows, attrition analysis. People are leaving, why people are leaving, talent acquisition, and employee engagement. So 3 potential areas where analytics can be used in HR is, basically, if you see, there's something called organizational network analytics. Who's sending email to who's having influence, and what time decisions are made, what is the frequency of sending those mails. That is one thing. And the second one is manager effectiveness and culture analytics. There is something called manager effectiveness and culture analytics. So, and third one is capitalizing on the analytics for making important business decisions. So therefore, data analytics has to become a mainstream capability in the business. So it should be integrated among all departments and not isolated. And the final one, which we are going to deliberate today, is evolving employer and employee relationship. So today we have the gig workforce, part-time workforce, work from anywhere, anytime. Engagement earlier started after the person boarded into the company and maybe after the probation period, but now engagement starts right from the recruiting process, I would say. And it should continue till the entire employee life cycle, till separation. Because your employee who leaves may refer a prospective employee, may again come back to you as a customer. So there is a whole lot of evolving regulation landscape, which you would have read in the newspapers also, how the companies are planning to reduce the HRA and pay for the electricity and the internet in the work from home era. There are 2 things to be answered here. One is, why would an employee would want to join your organization, and why would he want to continue to work for your organization? These 2 things we'll have to answer. This is something called employee value proposition. So there is a paradigm shift in trust in the employer-employee relationship. Earlier, we never trusted people, but now those days are gone. It has moved from time to task-oriented. So there is a whole lot of multicultural teams, virtual teams, and global talent pool. So you'll have to build a global talent pool. So you'll have to have a global competency model, which is a real challenge, especially if you're in a diversified business. If it's in the same business, you can build similar competencies. If it is a diversified business, then it becomes difficult to build a global talent pool. So with this context, let me throw the floor to our eminent speakers here today. First, I would like to call Mr. Rishi. Before that, I'll just give a brief introduction about Mr. Rishi. So welcome, Mr. Rishi. Rishi is a seasoned executive working as an associate vice president with Pactera Edge. He's a thought leader and transformation strategist with 16 years of industry experience focusing on business transformation, digital transformation, and enterprise agile transformation. So he has a strong background in retail and CPG and healthcare, with experience working clients across the globe. He helped multiple Fortune 100 companies in the digital transformation journey via key outcomes, digitally reinventing, enhancing enterprise agility. Rishi worked for clients in both US and UK like Walmart, CVS, TGAX companies, Sears Holding, Alliance Boots, Signa, Roundy Supermarket, to name a few. So it's a pleasure to have him. Sure, it's over to you, Rishi. Rishi will be basically delving upon digital
Yeah,
transformation, diversity, equality, and inclusion. So over to you, Rishi.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chidambaram. Pleasure to be here. I'll take not much time. Let me share my screen. Please tell me if you're able to see the screen.
Yeah, Rishi.
Yes,
Okay,
sir. It's
perfect.
possible.
Yeah, so as you, first of all, thank you everyone for joining this conclave, and I'm very happy to be here as a participant. You in my introduction, you saw that like a lot of transformation experience. So my talk is really close to the digital transformation and how HR function is playing, a critical role in the transformation journeys, right? So first of all, disclaimer: these views are completely mine. There's no association with my organization. I don't want any issue in late in the game, right? So when we are talking about digital transformation, right? I hope all of you read a lot, different journals, the reports, global reports like HBR and other places. So you will see that it's still 70% of digital transformation failed for different large enterprises. You see the reports like still 80% of AI initiatives are failing. So what is the reason behind it, right? Why companies are not completely able to transform? There are various reasons, but I think the core principles around the transformations are unique and very close to the people aspect of it. So if I have to look at digital transformation, so we normally, you have heard the term people, process, and technologies, right? So people part of this transformation is where you look at the cultural change, organizational transformation, right? Processes part is where you're modernizing the existing legacy processes from waterfall to agile or something else, or optimization part, leveraging the lean agile concepts, right? And the technologies part is where you're building intelligent digital platforms or solutions, leveraging the emerging technologies. So, and then center of this whole thing is the customer centricity, because all what you're doing is to enable your customers to have the higher business value, right? So another like so key aspect of it is still in this is, since COVID has played a major role recently from last 2.5 years. You have heard about a lot of companies literally shut down. Very few players are able to sustain the market, and few are actually able to grow in the market, right? Irrespective of the industry segment I'm talking, whether it's a retail CPG or healthcare or banking or fintech or any other one. So, but when we looked at the reports, right, this particular picture is from MIT. So there are few aspects where companies are doing really good, and those KPIs are communication, employee welfare, and agility. So if you look these KPIs, companies who are really good at it, they are able to sustain, able to grow. But companies who are failing in these KPIs, they are not able to deliver the results the customers or the stakeholders are expecting from these companies. So when we talk about communication, it is more on the collaboration side, team level collaboration, top down collaboration, right? Transparency between the leaders, the alignment between the portfolios, programs, and the projects or products. We talk about employee welfare, it is more on the health and safety, mindfulness. When we talk about agility, it's more on the execution side, right? It's more on the new ways of working. So we'll talk more about all these key aspects. So the key challenges, I think Mr. Martin already called out few, and then Mr. Chidambaram also talked about a few, right? So what are the key challenges in current digital business transformation? So if you look at issues, yeah, employee retention is really important. So even the great resignation era is going on right now, so it's a big term used across the globe, the great resignation. People are literally leaving the jobs, based on several other reasons, either based on the cultural issues or getting a lot of offers from different places, or even they don't want to work anymore. They want to open their own consulting firm, or because it is working from everywhere, anywhere. They can actually go to a beach and work from there. uh, so in learning and collaboration, because there is a lot of issues, a lot of organization which are not focusing on reskilling their employees. So there is a whole big pool of resources who are not ready to upgrade themselves and leverage the next set of emerging technologies. So these people, there's a gap where you kind of bring those people on board to these new projects or products, right? So that is the issue. Cultural issues, experiences, right? There's a whole push for any industry segment. You talk about retail. So if you talk about retail, there's a whole interest in the experience led design, right? So how the customer experience, how you bring customer centricity and efficient and bright customer experience or associate experience. When I say associate experience, basically it's employee experience for the own employees, right? So now, because this is HR forum, HR conclave, right? So how HR people can impact the business strategy? So this is like a 5-step process, I would say, or 5 key points, because they traditionally they have been known for driving the people part in the organization, right? So still they, if they are aligned with the people aspect of transformation, you need to focus a lot on the cultural side and connecting the dots and the alignment across the organization. So looking at that, how you can make sure that your organization foundation is built on the solid vision and mission and values and principles, right? And how every employee is aligned to it. How you can you should be focusing on the culture, articulating people strategy to have the better workforce design with the leaders in the organization. So they are not anymore sitting at a separate silos function. They actually working together with the transformation team, and guiding and contributing to even from day one in the vision and the workforce strategy and everything. Okay, so this is really big change, because I think that is where the agility comes into the picture. Because when we talk about agility, it is all about bringing transparency, bringing collaboration, bringing a culture of learning, sharing, experimentation, and innovation. Now, what approach do you need in today's environment, right? So, as other speakers mentioned about the data driven approach, so I call it data driven, human centric, people first agile approach. Because if you look at every term, data driven, you need uh, insights and intelligence, right? Human centric, it's people first thing, right? You need people, customer, associate should be at the center. And agile, because you really don't want traditional approaches, right? You want to reduce waste in the process in any area. So it need to be an agile and iterative. New ways of working, so alignment with organization goals and objectives. So these are like a few points which every person in this meeting need to look at, and I think build on that. So focus on the value rather focusing on the results. So what value you are contributing to your customers, what value you are contributing to your employees. So look at your work in that way, even irrespective of what function you are working in. Lean agile processes across functions, so that is where the new term is agile HR, agile marketing, right? How you make sure that the entire unit is literally have a lot of agility within the organization. This is like I don't know how many of you have seen this picture. This I pulled it from Scaled Agile House of Lean, because initially you heard about House of Lean and then Scaled Agile added another pillar into it. So there are 4 pillars, and this is the really great foundation for any organization, where foundation is built on Lean Agile leadership, who has the growth mindset, right? Who has servant leadership skill set. So leadership is really important for a great organization, to build a great organization from scratch. Now, the pillars, support functions are respect for people and the culture, right? Because eventually, if you have respect for people, you can build a trust and transparency. Then the second pillar is flow, where you're talking about building quality. You're talking about optimizing the value in the delivery, right? And don't look at it as an IT project. These are common things and applicable to any function, any process, any kind of a nature of the work. You can implement it. Innovation, how you make sure on a day-to-day job you innovate. That is really important. Relentless improvement. So you have to make sure that whatever you are doing, whatever contribution you are giving in the organization, right? There should be a continuous improvement. So look from the big picture perspective rather than looking at task-oriented picture. And then if all that combined, the outcome is the value. The value which is definitely in terms of the bigger outcomes, where is the higher customer experience or higher productivity or higher transparency or employee satisfaction. When if there's employee satisfaction, then there would be employee retention also, right? Collaboration to create value. So as I said, it's not anymore working in the silos. So HR, IT, business, everybody need to collaborate on the executive level to build the new ways of working, right? And that is where you can build outstanding experiences. So that's the way we look at it. How to bridge the gap? Again, the fundamentals around agility. There need to be a governance committee. There need to be right roles. People should be put in the right roles with the right expertise. Then you define, if you talk about the organizational change, you define a backlog of requirement, what is needed in the transformation journey. Then you prioritize that, and then you iterate by small problems, priority wise. And there is a feedback process with the PDCA enabled, and then you make sure that you can cover that feedback items in your process, iterative process again. So you make sure every time you iterate in this process, you bring more value to the customers, more value and more insight to the customers. Another digital aspect is how digital is disrupting the HR. So you, as you see, that digital workforce is one of the key area, digital workforce and digital HR. So digital workplace, any location is enabled for for people able to work from that location. So you have all the tools and technologies which are enabling the workplace, right? Digital workforce is people are competent enough that they are able to leverage these digital technologies and tools. And digital HR is where HR function also need to understand and enable the workforce in the workplace. Another key aspect is diversity, equality, and inclusion. So what do you mean by that? It is, I think this is another key thing when you talk about agility and collaboration and equality. Diverse teams actually bring innovative ideas, right? And that's a reason. And if there's a diverse set of people working in a well way, they able to trust each other more. So considering that, the focus areas are companies need to understand: is the resource pool is really diverse for them? Is there is a equality? What is the ratio between men versus women resources, right? What is a ratio between race, gender, and other different biases, right? Are there biases in the process? Are associates, certain group of associates getting benefits Is that what happening in the organization or not? Or everyone in the organization are getting equal opportunities to grow in the ladder or learning opportunities? So those are the questions which are really important, because when people in the company that they have been their voice is listened, and leadership is enabling them to grow to the next level, then it definitely helps in different ways. So hottest skills in current scenario, to me, definitely you folks are doing your masters in HR or different HR program, but apart from that I think you need to be more digital native, because now the skill sets which are required in the HR functions also a lot of focus on the people analytics, right? So you need to understand a couple of technologies. You have to learn those technologies so that you can contribute in effective way. It's not that you need to be dependent on IT folks, to drive the results and outcomes and the reports. You should be able to do it yourself, because then you can bring your thought process, your thought leadership into it to make the decisions which are more accurate and effective. Ability to manage remote teams, right? That is also important. So servant leadership is really required. Traditional command and controlling is not going to work. How to better and effective organizational design capability is possible, change management, design thinking is to. So these are like new skill set which are required in the HR function, in the leadership and other areas. Couple of technology initiatives which help to drive these these particular portfolios are like having chatbots which enable more collaboration between HR functions and the employees and other places, intelligent automation, unified employee experience, data driven decisions. So these are like areas where all the companies are investing a lot of money to have the better associate experience in place. I think that's all what I wanted to share. If there is any question, then I can take it. This is my LinkedIn. I'm going to share that. And anybody who is interested to connect me and have more questions, feel free to look at LinkedIn as well. Yeah, so now over to you.
Yeah, Rishi, thanks, Rishi, for the wonderful summation on digital transformation, diversity, equality, and inclusion. To sum up, what so far you have highlighted is why digital initiatives fail. What are the reasons for failure for digital initiatives? Artificial intelligence. So you were highlighting almost
Yeah.
three-fourths of the digital initiatives are failing, and artificial intelligence initiatives are failing.
So yeah,
So
so I'll add to that, right? So if I'm looking at any transformation and upcoming next year 5 transformational journeys, right? Any company is focusing on 2 aspects. Okay, one is the enterprise agility in the organization, and second is the intelligence in the organization. So these are the 2 driving forces which will make sure that company will grow. When I say grow, means definitely in form of ROI, in form of dollar values, right? Now enterprise agility, what I talked about, the people and process side of it, right? That drives the enterprise agility, and where HR people can actually contribute a lot. Intelligence is coming from different emerging tech AI models, which are building different analytical programs and driving insights, prescriptive insights to have the better decision making. So combination of both of these gonna help the company to in a longer run. And I think it's very important. When I say enterprise agility, it's a big area where we need lot of efforts for any organization, whether it's a large enterprise or it's a small SMB.
And Rishi also highlighted about having a customer-centric approach, and companies which did well on communication, employee welfare, and agility. These key performance indicators were successful. He spoke about the greater resignation era where people wanted to pursue their own passions, not without any job, maybe even working from beach. Also, he highlighted. Um, it's more of an employee market rather than an employer market. So we need to pull the employees, so not to push the employees. This is what he was highlighting, and how HR impacts business, how there is an alignment between HR goals and organizational goals, and how it boils down to the tactical plans. So he also spoke about the alignment of efforts, the core competencies, having a data-driven, human-centric approach. He spoke about and emphasizing the value, not on the results. If you focus on the value, you will get the end result. That was a key takeaway. And he spoke about lean, agile leadership through servant model leadership. It's not how many people you lead, it's how many people you serve. So he spoke about the four pillars which are generating value, the particular model. Then he spoke about the collaboration between IT function and HR function, how HR can institute their thought process into the IT information system, even in the purchase of technology. So, and then how to bridge the gap he was speaking. Then he also spoke about the importance of the feedback loop. So, and digitization, how it is creating disruption. And finally, he spoke about the diversity, equality, and inclusion, how we have to give equal opportunities to all and ensure that all attain the same level of performance. I think fairly I have summed up whatever Rishi has presented.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chidambaram.
Thanks, Rishi. Now I invite Mr. Bhanu to share his thoughts. Can you please project the profile of Mr. Bhanu? So Mr. Bhanu is the founder and director of, how do you pronounce this, sir? ARRA Associates. ARRA Associates. Okay. He's a technology expert, been growing with technology over 3 decades of experience. Fantastic. Expertise in niche areas, cloud, analytics, development ops, agile, digital marketing. A member of Madras Management Association and a regular trainer on analytics and technology. A mentor for entrepreneurs, Young Entrepreneur School, IIT, HIH, Rural Entrepreneur. A mentor for data science in Upgrad, AIM, founder director of ARRA Associates. So it's a pleasure to have Mr. Bhanu, and Bhanu sir will be basically speaking about analytics and artificial intelligence. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. It's always a pleasure connecting with the students, especially DG Vaishnav. I'm not new to this college and I've been doing a lot, and I know Martin sir for a while, and it's always a pleasure to connect. And congratulations on the 75th webinar series, and thank you for this opportunity to us. It's a pleasure presenting. So as was indicated, I'm going to be talking more in terms of analytics, AI in people management. So I'm just trying to say the technology is actually transformed the way we do people management. We had a lovely setting of the tone by Martin sir, where he beautifully built in whatever is happening in terms of the technology and the HR, very beautifully done. And then Mr. Chidambaram was giving us the perspective and he set the tone. And then Rishi talked about quite a bit in terms of what is it that is happening. So I'm going a little detailing there, a little drill down, wherein on technology, I'm picking one aspect, which is analytic, because he was talking about customer centricity. He was talking about knowing what is to be done. There are a lot of other related factors. So I'm now going to tell you how that can happen, and more importantly, from a people management perspective. So this is what I'm trying to look for. So before I get into it, being a HR forum, I thought I will start with this. The expectation of HR has really changed today. Now it is no longer a typical people management or the good old days where we were talking about compliance and then moved on in terms of people-centric and all that. Technically, if you really look at it, yes, we are in terms of talent acquisition, management, and enablement. That is HR. But today, it has evolved to such a level, probably some amount of it thanks to pandemic also, that we are, HR as a group is responsible for ensuring the employees are actually liking what they do, loving what they do, and if they don't, make them like it and love it, and ensure it is sustained over a period of time. And that's exactly where the sustenance helps you in career. So to a greater extent, it is now becoming an employee 360 degree. The way I'm talking about employee 360 degree is, it's no longer Bhanu as an employee, how is he performing in the organization, but Bhanu as a person, what is he? As an employee, what is he? As a family member, what is he? How is all this relating in such a way that I am able to deliver effectively for the organization, through which the organization grows and I grow. So that's typically where we are. So which means this sets the tone in terms of we trying to get into the next level in terms of saying, how do I know who I am, what I am, and all that? And that's exactly where analytics fits in very well. And thanks to the pandemic and all that, there are a lot of things that have changed from the HR perspective, wherein we are now managing employees' experience. It is actually just not an employee experience. As I said, it is becoming a life experience. That's what I mean here by employee 360. So the point that comes in is there are a lot of remote working, there is a lot of work from home. So there is a family bonding that has to be taken care of. And there are cribs and complaints stating, with work from home coming in, I'm being called at all possible hours and all that. While all that is there, we also need to manage a life experience. I don't want to call it work-life balance, but I would call it as a life experience per se. And employees are actually working for more in alignment to their cultural values of the organization and theirs. And that's where some of the things happening in terms of great resignations and all that, where people would love to work from wherever they are, or love to work in and around their place of living, so that they get to spend more time with the family and all that. That is coming in. And that is slowly leading into a hybrid workforce where I could say I can work from anywhere. Like, for example, technology has paved way. Like, this is an international conference. Rishi is sitting in US. We are all in Chennai. There are a lot of other things that are being managed here. So this typical hybrid happens within the organization. So which means as a HR, while I have to manage the life experience, I also need to ensure I monitor what the employee is doing, be a little more flexible in terms of the time he spends and how he works on it. And this also means with a hybrid workforce, I enable more of gig workers. These are typically like what Rishi was also saying, a lot of people wanting to be on their own, consultants and all that. So those kinds of workers are also starting to come in. So all of it will have to gel together in terms of HR. That's where we are moving into. So does that mean HR is dying? Now, this is a favorite slide for me in terms of most of the HR sessions that I do. I just leave it in terms of saying myth or a reality, and I give this content wherein I say, one of it from a talent HR operations, he says, but all that he says is there is no longer thinking of job is to stay on top of current trends, but to reposition themselves to become workforce advisors. So that's a big ticket item that we will have to look at. And you being budding professionals getting into HR, it's remembering, you should remember that we are becoming a workforce advisor, which means we have it all in us in terms of trying to understand what is happening, trying to know. And this actually takes you to the employee 360 that I've been talking about, wherein we tell them why this is important, how we take it forward. Which also means maybe you no longer have a HR manager and probably those kinds of things, but you might probably look at a HR evangelist, a HR data scientist, an employee experience specialist, a head of candidate experience, a performance coach. If you look at it, I've consciously picked some terms across multiple facets of HR. Employee experience specialist is more on operations, head of candidate experience is more on talent acquisition. So that way I've tried to pick it, because the point that I'm trying to bring in here is there is a lot of data that comes in, and if HR does not know what data they have within the organization, the only other finance on the financial angle. So these two are the critical ones with the data. So if we are able to manage and analyze and understand people better, it's only a success all over. So that's the world we are moving into. So the roles might change, but the HR per se will live. Now, so what is actually changing in HR? Now, this basically I'm trying to look at it at a very holistic fashion, wherein we are talking about a lot of aspects around it. Now, all of you would have heard Industry 4.0. We are all talking about multiple things changing and all that. So Industry 4.0 primarily runs around three distinct things. One is digitize your value chain, digitize your products and services, and the third one is digitize the customer needs. So technically, if you look at it, everything goes into digitization. So that automatically culminates into we managing people. There is a HR 4.0, HR 5.0 that happens, wherein we are talking about automations, exchange of data. There is a lot of dependency on data, and all of it paving way for an effective and efficient decision making. Now, does that mean we were not efficient enough in terms of decisioning earlier? We were, but now it is a lot more informed decisions that we are trying to look at. So what are we expected to do? We as people will have to realign ourselves into understanding the technology. I think that has been beaten to death already in this session, right from Mr. Martin talking about it all the way until I am coming down. So let me clarify here. I'm not saying all of you must be technologists, but the way I look at it is the moment we start using smartphones, we know what technology is. So we need to understand the technology jargons and know where to probably utilize the right kind of technology to achieve our growth. Like, for example, when you talk about recruitment, we are talking about artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and all that coming in. Like, one of my clients have positions open for their company loaded into their website. When somebody clicks on it, there is a call that is immediately established, a video call, depending on availability. It's completely AI driven. It's completely machine. So it is a video call. There are certain set of questions. There is a response that comes from the candidate. All of it is consolidated, and that engine, the typical bot engine that is there, actually consolidates not only the answers, the accuracy of the answer, but it also takes into consideration the dressing sense, the postures, to the mood swings and all that put together, and then tells you how good, bad, ugly the candidate is from an organization perspective. There are some parameters that are built, and when somebody clears is where they meet a person for a technical round, or typically the one-on-one rounds and all that. So those are some of the things that you could probably look at. So there is an artificial intelligence in the sense these systems who do not have a mind or a brain is enabled enough to decide. So there is an intelligence that is built in, and they talk naturally. The natural language comes in. So all of it gets into it. So the responsibility for HR is much beyond sourcing and recruiting and onboarding, but it is now personalizing, because we are talking about HR 360 degrees. So the whims and fancies of multiple people varies, and we need to align all of it. So this is the essence of change that we are looking at, and that's where we want people to start using data. To a greater extent, if you really look at it, most organizations will talk about attrition percentage. It will talk about what are the reasons behind it and what are this and that. But what is key is for us to look at leveraging these analytics so that we are able to build a better working environment, which will automatically bring in loyalty from an employee perspective and enable a better profit. That will also mean HR is having the wherewithal in terms of driving the entire force. Now, what do I mean? I like this quote from this Intel GM, wherein he said, most people use data the way drunks use lamppost, basically for support rather than for elimination. Now, with due respects, while I'm not demeaning anybody here, the point that we are trying to drive here is use the data to make decisions. Don't lean on them alone. Like, that is where the analytics talks about. You have something called as your descriptive analytics, which describes what has happened all along. But you move on from the descriptive, getting into predictions and prescriptions. If you remember my intro slide, the first slide which had the heading, I had the stethoscope of something like a doctor standing there. The reason is because what happens when you enter a clinic is he asks you a set of questions, you describe what happens, he, based on which he assimilates things, predicts what could the illness be, and then writes a prescription, and that is where you start operating on. You start acting on those prescriptions and you get cured. And that's exactly where HR is moving towards. So we describe what is happening. We predict as to what should happen and bridge the gap with an appropriate prescription so that we are able to achieve what we want. That's what I mean by illuminating ourselves with the data. And that is where the essence of analytics is moving towards. While I'm not getting into details on what is analytics, why analytics and all that, that's for a different section, different day. The point that I'm trying to bring in here is analytics enable you to move into that kind of a level, to such a level wherein I can, for example, automate things. instead of manually updating all the applicant tracking information like the profiles to the kind of multiple rounds of interviews, who interviewed, what is the rating and all that, I could probably build an automated process which will consolidate all of this information automatically, which means the data is readily available and I can start analyzing. To what extent? Recruitment turnaround times. Now, how long does it take to recruit at different levels? Now, which area or which step is taking a longer duration? Why is it? Is it because I'm not able to get a person who's a technical interviewer from the business, or is it because there is a lot of documentation that happens? Today, there is a lot of manual work, so we could probably automate them. Or for that matter, the artificial intelligence, I also already gave you an example of recruitment, hiring, candidate screening that is happening. There is a lot more that you could get into. You could even, I know, I have worked with another client of mine wherein we were not only predicting attritions, but which is now becoming normal, but we started predicting performance of an employee. Performance predictions. It's no longer performance appraisals, which is more descriptive and more in terms of a postmortem. We started predicting performance and we knew he is improving or not improving. And we tried to give the tools, arms and ammunition so that he could deliver well, rather than at the end of a performance period, tell him you're not performing well. So those are some of the things where intelligence gets built in. And today the virtual reality is also playing a big ticket item. While again, that's a lot around it. The point that I want to bring in here is onboarding can be automated. I no longer have to move around with a person being brought into the central office for him to be introduced and all that. I could build a virtual reality. He could be taken through the system in terms of what he's doing. In fact, I know one of my partner companies using what we call as a conversational AI has completed a sales induction to salespeople without they being invited to the organization, which means they are on the road. So they continue to be on the road, but they are being inducted. And they have also met all the key resources within the organization with conversational AI and virtual reality. So that's the world we are moving into. And let me tell you, this chunk of people who are now starting to move into the industry are the ones who are going to start working with a lot more of human and robots kind of operations. So it will be a lovely thing to work on. And that's where a lot of these things happen, where we are no longer talking about a single phenomenon. I am not taking anything in isolation. It's going to be an interconnected trend. So why is my performance bad? You did not do this, you did not do that. Gone are those days. He's performing bad because he has a personal issue at home. This has to be resolved. Or he's currently loaded with these kinds of activities. His productivity is getting down because of these reasons. So I should start building in those kinds of data. And the workforce is also becoming tech savvy. While baby boomers are on the way out, their children, the millennials, and then the Gen Z, the others that are coming in, they're all becoming tech savvy with a lot of fresh ideas and all that. So it is really important that we'll have to implement technology, failing which we lose focus on retention of people. And that would also mean they want to deliver. Like I have done the campus interviews. 12 years back, when I go for a campus interview, I ask the students, why should I hire you? Today, the student asks me, what will I get if I get hired? So that's the kind of thing. What is in it for me is becoming the key. So the way the organization, the leadership is to look at is what I call as a holacracy. It is not necessarily top down, but it is an equality. It's a kind of a DA that Rishi was also trying to talk about. I have a freedom to self-manage, and at the same time, I don't have somebody brooding over my neck, but at the same time, I have my responsibility to deliver something. And the contracts, Rishi did mention about it, the freelancing or being a self-employed person, what we call as a gig economy, is on the run. And more importantly, a lot of it is becoming hierarchy-less, with we being ourselves with a common goal and without competition. Even competitors are now collaborating. That is the world we are moving into. So what does all this mean? From a student perspective, you complete your curriculum, understand the practical aspects, don't be bookish, and keep your eyes and ears open to understand what is happening in the industry. Learn the latest trends and utilize the programs through forums, like these kinds of excellent opportunities that your college is giving. I know they are members in NIPM, S2S, multiple other HR forums, and I've seen most of you folks, some of you folks there. Though I don't see the video, you see my video, and some of you would have seen me in one or more of these. And you are also there on MMAs and all this. So these are forums where it's an opportunity not only to learn, but it's an opportunity to network. You get to see the realistic aspects of what we are all talking today as part of presentations. So you will be able to understand the industry needs. You will also know if I want to be an entrepreneur, what is it and all that. But be aware and beware. You'll have to be relevant and ahead in the market. You remember, all of us remember the Kodak story. They were founded in 1888. They were Fortune 500, Fortune 100 and all that. But 2012, they had to file bankruptcy because they did not recognize the digital transformation that was coming in. So it's important that you keep all this in mind and take yourself to a success. With that, I will pause here. Back to you, Mr. Chidambaram, for you to take it forward.
Yeah,
Questions, we can have it later.
yeah, thanks, Mr. Bhanu Kumar. We have immersed into analytics and artificial intelligence. So you have immersed us into analytics and artificial intelligence. So the summary, what I would like to say here is basically what is the expectations of HR professionals today, how the roles have changed, and whatever the modern roles which you have, contemporary roles which you have highlighted was really fantastic. It's moving from a more of a conventional to a contemporary era for HR professionals. And you also spoke about the 360-degree perspective. Need to know, you need to manage the employee, not only the experience, employee life experience. Employee has a life outside office. You need to manage that also. So you are highlighting that, and you are highlighting about the alignment of cultural values, the hybrid model, and you also emphasized on the HR's role as workforce advisors, which means HRs are looked upon as consultants, change agents. So they will be involved in organizational effectiveness and development in change interventions. So whenever the leadership team calls you for a change intervention, HR will be championing that change intervention. That is what you were highlighting as a role of the consultant. You spoke about the industry 4, how it is tech savvy. HR needs to know about the basics of technology, though not in detail, at least what to apply where. Then personalizing experience depending upon the generation of the employee. And you spoke about the data analytics and taking action on data. It's not just data, taking action on data, otherwise it will lead to an analysis paralysis. And that is what you are saying. We're speaking about descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics, and you correlated that with the prescription of the doctor, how he diagnoses and gives a prescription. Then you spoke about the upcoming technologies and moving from the performance appraisal to performance prediction, and about the new work and millennials, new leadership and millennials. So with this, I'm summing up your presentation. And I'm inviting Mr. Nagarajakumar to share his thoughts. Before that, I would like to, please can you project the profile of Mr. Nagarajakumar? Yeah. So welcome, Mr. Nagarajakumar, sir. So Mr. Nagarajakumar Krishnaswamy is a principal manufacturing innovation Innomantra Consulting Private Limited. So he has his own consulting services. He's certified from American, Canadian, and Netherlands universities for 6 courses covering design thinking, digital innovation, and learning. Has 4 decades of industry experience, and the last 2 decades he had a 2 decades association with L&T. So L&T is the first company to introduce this HR function, just for the benefit of this group. Currently principal manufacturing innovation at Innomantra Consulting, speaker at CII and jury of technology competitions, trainer and delivered over 200 programs and trained over 10,000 persons. He has guest lectured in 25 institutions covering management, engineering, medical, and arts colleges. So he's a veteran, versatile professional. So I leave the floor to Mr. Nagarajakumar to take it forward from here, where he will be delving upon evolving employer and employee relationship. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chidambaram. Let me do the sharing of the screen. Good evening. Hope my screen is visible.
Visible.
Yeah. So, good evening to all the panel members, Dr. Martin and my beloved DGVC students. In fact, I'm happy to connect with you for the 6th time in a calendar year. In fact, last 5 times I was in US, 2 times from California and 3 times from New Jersey. So whenever there's a DGVC webinar, it used to be the morning time there. So for the first time, I'm experiencing the night also from now on. So the wonderful topic of global human capital trends, I would like to present on one area, a sub-theme on evolving employer-employee relationships. See, this particular theme is based on, this particular presentation is based on a research paper by Deloitte, which is presented by 8 authors, and they have taken the research of 74 articles and interviews. So it's a highly condensed version. The juice of it I am presenting in the limited time. So it will be only focused on this particular subject and nothing else. So we'll proceed further. Peter F. Drucker, the management expert, said, the greatest danger in turbulent times is not the turbulence, but to act with yesterday's logic. No doubt, yesterday's logic got us to where we are today, but it won't drive success into the future. So, how foolish it will be to apply yesterday's logic in today's problem was told by Drucker. What we are going to see is about tomorrow, not yesterday, it's about tomorrow. So for that, we are going to use a wonderful tool called scenario planning. That scenario planning is a subset of strategic planning, which is followed by all organizations to equip themselves for long-term planning for next 5 years, planning for next 10. Whatever may be the uncertainty, the planning process has to go on. So this particular tool of scenario planning will be covered. Question: why use scenario planning to evolve future employer-employee relationships? Because what is the key to the global human capital trends? The employer-employee relationship is the key to the business and global HR capital trend. And recently we saw pandemic has put a severe test on this. How the relationship came under strain. What were all the difficulties employer faced as well as employee faced, everyone knows. How this will evolve, it is uncertain, and to evolve we apply a proven tool called scenario planning, which I mentioned. What is scenario planning? Scenario planning is making assumptions on what the future is going to be and how your business environment will change over time in light of the future. There's another definition: identifying a specific set of uncertainties and different realities of what might happen in the future of your business. So basically we are going to talk, I'm going to take you into future. So future evolving employer-employee relationship, we are going to analyze with a tool called scenario planning. So we will proceed. Now, how to use? The scenario planning basically uses these 4 steps. I am making it simpler so that you follow every one of the steps. First, it identifies the driving force. What is the driving force? The employer-employee relationship is the driving force. Second, it identifies critical uncertainties. There are many uncertainties, out of which some are critical, 2 of them are taken, the most relevant. What are they? One is government impact. Second is talent supply. So it is shown in the figure, in the picture here. The type, consistency, speed, and effectiveness of government action is called government impact. So what will happen if it is low? What will happen if it is high? We are going to see. On the other side, talent supply. So what kind of talent? See, all the speakers, starting from Mr. Martin, have sufficiently told about how the world is going tech savvy. So naturally, it's a digital, education, and skilling divide of the workforce. Again, from low to high, we are going to see. So these two critical uncertainties we are going to take. Then what we are going to do? We are going to put into 4 different scenarios. It's called developing plausible scenarios, the probable scenarios. What are the scenarios? In the first scenario, namely, the 4 quadrants. The lower left is low talent supply and low government impact. The bottom right, that is number 2, is high talent supply and low government impact. The top left is low talent supply and high government impact. The bottom right is the 4th one is high talent supply and high government impact. So what will happen in these 4 scenarios is what we are going to see. Wait for the interesting analysis. The 4th step is discuss implications and paths. So what are the 4 possible scenarios? The first scenario, both are low. We are terming as work as fashion. So working is becoming like how we approach fashion. That is a terminology coined for the first quadrant, where both are low. Quadrant 2, that is bottom right, high talent supply, low government impact is war between talents. Why there is a war between talent? Because there is an excessive talent supply. People are competing. One talent competes with another. The third is called low talent supply, high government impact is called work is work. It's more a professional approach, work is work. The 4th one, namely both are high talent supply and high government impact is called purpose unleashed. Unleashing means sudden release, a violent release. The purpose is released. So in these 4 ways we are going to see. So follow this. Now, so scenario planning is used for evolving employer-employee relationships. It has taken 2 uncertainties, government impact on the y-axis and talent supply on the x-axis. And the 4 different possibilities are stationed here and they are also named, namely work as a fashion in first, war between talent in second, work is work third, purpose unleashed fourth. In work as a fashion, the tendency of the employer will be reactive. What is reactive? For every action of the employer will be responding quicker and quicker. Why? Because talent is low, supply is low. So they have to be, guarding the ring fencing their talent. Otherwise, it will go away. Competitor will snatch, or workman, the employees have got many options nowadays. The second one, war between the talent, the approach of the employers will be impersonal. Why it is impersonal? So much of talent is available. They won't remember the names. See, there are only few people, Dr. Martin will remember who are the key people of executing team, who are the key people in this thing. When the talent, this thing is less. When so much of talent available, everybody can do any job. It will be an impersonal approach. The third one, when we move where work is work, it will be more of professional, where worker knows his job, employee knows their job, employer knows their job. They all understand both are different. Work is work, social work is social. So this distinction they are aware, it's more of a professional. The fourth one, where both are high, it's called purpose unleashed. It's more of a communal. I mean, communal is they all share. It's a shared relationships, shared interest, more trust, more caring. So that is the broader aspects of the 4 quadrants. We will see further analysis of this. So what we are going to see, using scenario planning, taken 2 uncertainties, we developed 4 scenarios and we named them also. We are now going to see what are the implications, what characteristics they are evolved by seeing what is the nature, what will be employer's actions, what will be employee's actions. This is the first step. Second step, how to navigate the path. In each quadrant, how employer should move, how management should act. For that, they use three different strategies. One is called instinctive response. Second, that is, what is our quick response? Instinctive means impulsive, quick response. Second is survey strategy. Survey means every organization's first job is to survive. In the pandemic, even we, our all experienced, we have to be safe and secure first. Third is thrive. Thrive is prospering, flourishing. So instinctive response is immediate response. Survey strategy is we have to survive and alive. Third is we should prosper. That's the thrive differentiator. This is the navigating path. So these two we are going to see of each of the four scenarios. So this is the what we are going to do. We have seen this. We will see each of the scenario by scenario. So first scenario. What is first scenario? Work as a fashion, where low talent supply and high, talent supply is low and government impact is also low. What is the nature implications? Employers are dynamic, chasing employee sentiments, competitor actions and marketplace dynamics. So employer is on their toes. Employers' actions, they will be more listening. They will roll out newer programs and newer policies because they have to keep their employees happy because they are low in supply. What will be employees' actions? Due to skill shortage, employees will gain the upper hand. So they keep expecting more and more from employers, sometimes demanding them. So the social activism will be on the rise. When employees are powerful, they will be voicing more, they will be more vocal, more social activism. So employers have to do the listening role. This is the scenario in the first work as a fashion future. So what are the navigation path? What strategy should be followed? Immediate response to workers' expectations. Whatever employee wants, respond. Address underlying needs of employees. Differentiate value that stays unchanged. So these three courses to be charted. Now we will see the nature, the implications and navigation path for next scenario. What is next scenario? It is war between talent. What is the assumptions here? High talent supply and low government impact. So nature, employees compete for limited jobs due to oversupply of talent. So jobs are few, persons are more, and less concerned with the relationship with the employers. So they have no time for employer relationship. They are worried about their security and securing the jobs. What will be employers' actions? Employers view employee as an interchangeable and replaceable. That means if A goes, call B. If this person goes, call that person. This is their approach. So limited. So when there is more to choose, limited effort will be taken on talent development. Because if one talent goes away, another talent comes. Also, employers will be resorting to artificial intelligence, automation, outsourcing, all that they will do. Further, they will, make them strong and secure. What will be employees' actions? They are more concerned with competing with each other for jobs than enhancing relationship with the employers. Even for higher education, they have to shell out their own money. It's not employer-sponsored education programs, executive MBA, that kind of thing will not happen. So this is the scenario. How to navigate the path? Commoditize workforce for reducing the cost and increasing the output. What is commoditizing means? Every worker is replaceable. Every employee is replaceable. So let's make the cost as minimum as possible and get maximum output. Invest selectively where matters, because you are in everything is available. So you'll have to selective investing will do. Create good jobs as it is good for the business. So this is the strategy to be followed as a navigation path. So we have seen two scenarios, the bottom two, work as a fashion and war between talent. We will move to third scenario, which is work is work. So here it is high government impact and low talent supply. What is the implication? The nature will be employers view organizational responsibility and personal social fulfillment as a separate domains. Each depend on other for work-related needs. So there is a perfect give and take happening. That's what we call professional. What will be employers' actions? More government regulations for employee protection. Employers define behavioral norms. What will be employees' action? Employees resort to more sabbaticals and paid time off, less interest in overtime, and other employer engagement programs. See, they have to live. They have to have a family. They have a society. They have a company. So they will not be all the time working for the company. They will even if you offer give overtime, they will say no. I have family engagement. I have to go for Christmas off. All that they will tell, and they will view both as a separate domains. How to navigate? What is the strategy for navigation? Assume relationship requires no attention because it's already professional, so not much of nurturing required. Cultivate comfort in the workplace. See that workplace is comfortable. Redefine the work to make it meaningful. So that is what to be done. So next we go to the fourth quadrant, which is purpose unleashed. So what is the premise here? High talent supply, high government impact. So what is the implication, the nature? Shared purpose is the important tie of relationship, acting as foundation and driving force. So the shared purpose, both are sharing the purpose. It's a very desirable phenomenon. What is employer's action? Purpose will be showing in the hiring practices and performance metrics. Decisions are more on the purpose-based. Increased transparency in reporting, purpose-based. Purpose and business are criteria for promotion and succession decisions. So it's all purpose-driven. Actions will be employers. What will be employees' action? Employees demand purpose-aligned measures from employers. So all are becoming very highly sophisticated. That's why communal relationship is prevailing. More caring and trust-oriented relationship is prevailing. How to navigate the path? Be vocal and visible on social issues. Integrate purpose into operation and talent programs. So everything is done with purpose. Co-create purpose with the workforce. So that's a perfect alignment. The alignment was talked by both Mr. Rishi Kumar and Bhanu Kumar in different contexts. The aligning is happening here. So these are the four scenarios which is done by scenario planning. And we have seen the implications and navigation path. So what next? What next is we should set direction and navigate for the evolving scenarios. How to set direction? To set direction and navigating the future, which is uncertain, you require strategies. So create strategies for all four scenarios. What kind of strategies? How to create? You use three tools. One is purpose. Second is potential. Third is perspective. Purpose is for what purpose? What is the opportunity in it? That is potential. What are the perspective? What are the different ways it will emerge? Is the perspective. So these three strategies will cut across the four quadrants. So you get a wonderful grid. There's a four scenarios wise, there are information. Purpose, potential, perspective is cutting across them. So we will get a grid, which we will see the grid now. So what is the grid now? These are the strategies. First, work as a fashion. Follow the three vertical steps for purpose, potential, and perspective. What are they? Anchor relationship on lasting values. That is, if you are an employer, if you are a business concern, and if you are operating in scenario 1, where work as a fashion, you should follow this. What are these? Anchor relationship on lasting values, design careers for choice and opportunity, define employee experience, driving competitive differentiation. So this is how you should draw the strategy for scenario 1. If you are in scenario 2, that is war between talent, what should be your actions? These are the three. Build relationship on respect and dignity. Invest employee skills for organization good. Create employee experience, which will meet the talent needs. If you are in third scenario, where work as work, make make work meaningful for employees. Use work as a means to develop untapped human capability. In this scenario, talent, the availability of talent or supply of talent is less. So you should use the work as a means to develop untapped human capability. Center employee experience around the work. So this is the strategies we should follow. If it is a fourth quadrant, what is fourth quadrant? Purpose unleashed, where high talent supply, high government impact, it's a communal relationship, desirable relationship, give employees meaningful voice for organization's purpose. Create a culture where employees grow and achieve business goals. Make purpose tenet of employee experience and talent brand. So, through scenario planning, in future, if these 4 scenarios develop, how we should act is what we have equipped ourselves. So this helps us to face the uncertain future with confidence. So how to conclude? The conclusion is how to set direction and navigate for the evolving scenarios. For each of the 4 scenarios, we created strategies. How we created? We used purpose, we used potential, we used perspective, cutting across the 4 possibilities, for 4 possible scenarios. What is a common thread? Leadership, redefining the work, empowerment of the employees, meaning of the work, belongingness of the work employees. These are the common thread. I mean, based on these assumptions only, all these are made. What should be the bold destination required? Strategies created, for business, for workforce and social strategies to be created. See, in future, with business is not alone. It is always with workforce also, social needs also. More and more social norms will become 100% requirement for the business to thrive. And what is the challenge? The challenge is to, the organization should navigate steadily towards the desired destination with empathy. So with all this, you require a deeper understanding of human needs, a humanistic approach. So you will have digital, you will have AI, you will have all kinds of tech savvy things will be there. But still, people are also there. Hence, you require empathy also, humanistic approach also, which is also mentioned by Mr. Rishi, the human-centric approach. Both Mr. Rishi and Bhanu also mentioned this particular aspect. So more and more organizations have to have humanistic values with deeper understanding, with empathy, they should approach. If they approach, the challenge of the future can be combated with the strategies which we got through scenario planning. Thank you so much. Best wishes.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the good presentation. It was very insightful overall. Yeah, to just put my thoughts into this. You dealt upon the scenario analysis, which is a strategic planning tool. So with various permutations and combinations, how you are predicting the future, how you are going to operate in the VUCA world. And generally, all these 4 scenarios are present today. Whether it is the 2 axes you were speaking about, the government impact and the supply of talent, all these 4 scenarios are present in today's VUCA world. That is what I would say. And it also, you can correlate this with the multi-generational workforce, because each generation reacts to this scenario differently. And you also touched upon the human-centric approach, which I would relate it to the Vroom's expectancy theory. If I do anything, whether I will get a reward, whether the reward will be meaningful to me, which also you beautifully highlighted. You also said to create strategies for this 4 scenarios. So with this, I conclude, sir, my thoughts on this. It was a good, insightful subject for all of us, how to handle the workflows. We have to not only be tech savvy, but also empathize with the people and take the people along with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I thank all the speakers for giving us a great and thoughtful discussion on the topic global human capital trends. It was undoubtedly an interesting session which made our evening a productive one. So let us now begin with the Q&A session. Dear participants, in case of any doubts or questions, kindly unmute yourself and ask them, or post the question in the chat box.
Maybe Pavitra, you can read out the questions, whoever is putting it in the chat box.
Sure, sir, sure. I'll do that. So there is this question from Mr. Vijay Raghavan.
Yeah.
What can be done to protect and invest in people beyond the pandemic?
Yeah, who's taking this question? Should I?
No, it is addressed to whom or
Yeah, anyone of us can.
I think it looks an open question. We can take it. Start,
Yeah.
Rishi, then we can add. You can start, Rishi.
Yeah, definitely. So the question is, again, I'm repeating the question, what can be done to protect and invest in people beyond the pandemic, right? So I think the pandemic has given us a platform where we know what is coming in the future, right? What are the technologies, what are the trends are there? And to build the capability, we need to invest in those areas. It could be learning and development of the resources, even the learning and development of the HR functions also, right? The technologies investment which are needed to build an automation, automation in place for what Bhanu talked about and other things, right? So investing the people in learning and development, reskilling, and then investing on tools and technologies would be really important. And I think that would be continue after pandemic as well. Yeah, that's all from my side. Over to you guys.
Yes, sir, thank you. And we have another question from Narikshana. Pandemic has affected the human capital a lot. How do we as an HR manage the labor without wasting the resources?
Okay, so we are talking about pandemic affecting human capital. So how as an HR manager, we manage the labor without wasting resources? Now, see, couple of things that you need to look at is, I think that was the thread in all the presentations today, if you really look at it. Basically, what we are trying to look at is, look at areas which are prone to problems, or look at areas where you have potential problem scenarios because of repetition or mundane tasks and all that. Maybe look at automating them. Reinvent the roles of various people. Try to probably look at it more from the perspective of upskilling, reskilling, get them ready. So more than, I wouldn't call it wasting resources or labor, but I would look at it more from the perspective of reorient the overall business look and feel by talking about some amount of technology, by talking about data-oriented operations, by providing a equitable environment, equal environment in terms of people, everybody treated alike, everybody is there. So some repetitive task over a period of time, we might lose track of it, we might make mistakes, so automate it. So those are some of the things that we could probably take so that at an overall perspective, we are able to deliver with a little more focus and at a better, efficient way. That's how I look at it. Over to the other panelists to add, if at all any.
To add to whatever Mr. Bhanu said, see, one way of looking at it is instead of coining it as resource, wasting the resources, you should optimally use the resources. Have a lean workforce. So the organizations or the corporates which got impacted during these 2 years were those which had, I would say, more than the required resources. Not only we are speaking about human resources, all resources, because we are competing for limited resources. The resources available are limited. So especially in a service organization, the most of the cost is related to your people. So in that way, have a lean management. Try to introduce lean in all the processes, not only in human resources, in all the processes, whichever functions you have. Thereby, optimally use them. It will not impact your human resources. For example,
great.
how the edutech sector has actually grown in leaps and bounds. How many startups have emerged? How this education has completely redefined. Not only education, for that matter, anything. The hospitals, the laboratories coming to home and taking blood checkups. So keep your resources lean. That is what I would say, rather than wasting the resources. Maybe this pandemic is a blessing in disguise, I would say.
Yeah. See, already nice points have been shared by the three panelists. I would like to add only a small portion. It really gave a wake-up call. The wake-up call both for management also, for employees also. From esteem, the Maslow's theory, when we were in esteem and, we came down hurriedly for the basic needs. And organization suddenly realized, what if people don't turn up? What if all assumptions go? So a total rethink has happened. A reorientation. That's why the reorientation is upskilling or skilling, upskilling, reskilling, like learn, unlearn, learn is more evident or more applicable now than in the past. And it has opened up newer possibilities. That's why more startups are coming, more education, edutechs are flourishing, and work from home and online training is flourishing. So it's a sudden new way of thinking has come. And really, in a way, the blessing in disguise portion is we will be equipped for greater uncertainties in the future. A greater globalization, greater multi-generation workforce, greater global connect, global supply chain, global customers, global employees, all became a reality. So we suddenly had a good dose of all these. And really, we should, our future thinking, future plan should be on this basis. So that kind of a lesson it is taught. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have more questions in the chat, right? So, Pavitra, okay, let me.
It's from
Yeah,
Kritika.
the next question is, okay, I'll take the stage now, Pavitra, okay? So the next question we have is, so another question which is really good, to what extent does diversity and inclusion in the workplace influence the retention rate, right? So Bhanu, would you start with on that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, all that what happens is when you look at a diversity and inclusive workforce, I think there are some statistics that are running around which happened sometime in 2019, which said they found positive experiences of inclusion, which was better explained in team problem solving skills. Roughly around 49% was giving it and all that. Now, the idea is, what is diversity, equity, inclusion? All that what we are talking about is we have a diverse set of people. By diverse set, I don't mean the gender alone, but one is a gender diversity. Two is we are talking about persons with disability. Three is second career, multiple related operations, colors, to whatnot, when you look at it from the US centric and all that. So when I have a diverse crowd, it's not enough in terms of I saying I have a diverse crowd, but I should give them a work environment wherein they can feel they belong to that environment. That's where the equity comes in, wherein everybody is treated alike and I am included as part of it and all that. So typically the idea behind that kind of a diverse equity inclusion impact per se is when I have a diverse hire, I get a different experience. When I treat all of them equal, I make them feel inclusive, I make them feel belong, and then they will get into it. So a good example probably could be probably a mundane thing that I will probably take it is, now, for example, somebody is a hearing impaired and you're looking at some factory positions where somebody will have to work on heavy noise oriented systems, right? So in that case, instead of my asking a regular guy to be there with some earphones so that the noise is not impacting, I could probably put in a hearing impaired. Now, what will be the challenge? The challenge is going to be more in terms of identifying fire hazards and all that, because typically that will be an alarm. Instead, you could put in a huge red light which could rotate and all that, so they could. So with some minor things, you make them feel inclusive, you make them feel equal to the others, and you enable a diverse community to work. So what it ultimately leads into is everybody belong to the organization, so they don't tend to quit, but they feel they are part of the organization in the overall decisioning process, so they will support well. That's how it goes. Hope that
Wonderful,
answers.
Bhanu. Wonderful. We have another question from Vaishali. She want to understand what is your opinion on the importance of employee and employer relationship. Mr. Chidambaram, why not you answer this question?
Yeah, just please repeat it, Rishi. What is the
Yeah, the
importance of?
question is, she want to understand your opinion on the importance of employee and employer relationship.
Okay. See, employer and employee relationship in the global context, if you see, it basically evolves from the culture of the country. So whether you are in a high context culture or a low context culture, whether in a Western country or in a country like India, which is very diversified. So basically, there are three strategies, I would say. One strategy is you accept them for whatever they are, and second one is a collaborative strategy. It is a win-win, and third one, it is a confrontational strategy. So you should be able to actually bargain. At the same time, you should be able to be prepared for some work stoppages, provided you have the resources to handle that. So it's important. It's moved away more from my employer and employee relationship. It is even moved away to your supply chain also. So not only you should be compliant with your employers, but also you should have a compliant supply chain partner. Therefore, you get better products, and which also increases your profitability.
No, definitely a very valid point, and I think it's more than important than anything else, because it helps in to retain the employees as well, right? The employee satisfaction and all those things. It's all connected. We have another
It all
question.
evolves from the culture, I would say, the country
Correct,
culture,
correct.
the organization culture, the leadership culture. So it
Right,
varies.
right.
Okay.
So we have another question from Dhanush. The question is, while the use of technology tools in a screening and selection process makes things easier, would not it result in the reduction of human dependency? Okay, so I'll take that question. Okay. So Dhanush, your question is very valid, but look at the holistic and big picture, right? So when we are talking about a screening and selection process, let me take an example of tools like HackerRank or HackerEarth. So the whole purpose of these tools are not selection, but the elimination process in the value chain, right? Because for any job requirement, you are getting maybe 4,000 to 5,000 applicants. Now, everybody is not competent enough. So these tools eventually help you to eliminate the waste in the process and select the right candidate who would get interviewed for those respective positions with a human in the loop, right? So I think it's not gonna reduce the human dependent. It actually enable us to be more efficient in the processes, right? So that's one way of looking at it. Any other thought, anyone?
Yeah, see, a couple of other things is, while technology can be there, we are trying to automate, we are trying to change and all that, there are certain aspects which only a human can do. Like being in HR, you are not to become an IT guy, but while the future is on the technology, the bigger future actually lies in transcending the IT. So you are basically there in terms of, I could probably put it as aspects around empathy, aspects around aspects in terms of more humane, more humanity, human related, mankind oriented transitioning that we'll have to do, where we need to engage, we need to understand experience is still human. So that is not going away. All that what we are trying to do is be a human with a human body, but at the same time use technology so that acts as an enabler. That's how we look at it.
Yeah. Thank you, Bhanu. We have another question from Bala Gauri, and this is for Mr. Nagaraja.
Yeah.
So question is, what happens if the performance prediction that we estimated goes haywire? What can we do to remedy that?
See, the performance prediction we do in a conventional manner now. In future, there are a lot of analytics, like as mentioned, prescriptive, descriptive, predictive, all these will happen. And more data orientation, like the example given by Mr. Bhanu Kumar is, why performance is bad is the past. Oh, this person's performance is bad because he has his personal issues. That is the futuristic awareness. So in that sense, since there is more data orientation, since more analytics is coming into the picture, the performance prediction will be little more realistic. So these with the tech tools, we can make it more realistic than what we were done to do the performance prediction in the past.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And anybody like to add? Or
Yeah,
I was getting ready for the next question also.
Yeah, one point that I wanted to add here is, when you get into this automation, when you get into this artificial intelligence kind of machine learning model, there is nothing where you say prediction is wrong. The prediction did not work for a scenario because you did not train the model for that scenario. So go back and train the model for that scenario so that it aligns. That is the way we will have to look at the perception. Gone are the days when we said the computer is wrong. It is only thing is we'll have to ensure the computer doesn't go wrong. So basically train the system to take it forward. That's how we need to look at it.
No, Bhanu, you made a good point, but at the same time, I'll add one more thing. You talked about the efficient models, but again, an efficient model will drive the right outcome if data is correct. Data is
correct. Absolutely.
Useful data. Means there's no bad data, or there's no if there's not enough accuracy in the data points, any efficient model will not give the right outcomes. So it's both ways, it's a combination.
Yeah, I think that's where Chidambaram sir started in the beginning, talked about the big data, the 4 V's and all that. That's where it goes. You're right.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you guys. So we have another, this is I think the last question for us from Soumya. How ready is our workforce to perform the work of the future? And another question, what are the capabilities and skill gaps, and how can we bridge the gaps?
I think readiness is readiness of the employees. Yeah, readiness of the students now. Anyway, Nagaraj sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I will start. It's a wonderful topic where all can add. I will start my portion. See, it's actually the current workforce is in the process of getting ready. We are not 100% ready for the future, but there are indications what the future will be. That's why, data science is there, automation is there, outsourcing is there, artificial intelligence is there. And people are, with the pandemic kind of working style, work from home and, multi-generational workforce, different geographic areas reporting. So all these are getting the experience. So the current people are getting into more and more experience and inputs to make them to be future ready. So one aspect from HR point of view is the employee engagement. L&D has become more and more important. And from the employee's point of view, continuous upskilling, reskilling, repositioning, upskilling is more and more, it will assume importance. If you don't make the skill gap by preparation and constant learning, you will become suddenly unfit and irrelevant, and somebody will overtake you. That is the word. So you have to be vigilant, and gone are the mindset. We have completed our studies. Now we are into work. It's not that. Work is study. Education and work will go hand in hand right through, and more education is required. So this will be the order of the future. So the gap, the preparation are touched. Others can also add, please.
Yeah, my thought is actually, as Mr. Nagarajakumar said, there is a skill gap deficiency today which exists. So once the candidate, so the millennial is going to be the next generation, Gen Z and millennial. Once they come out of the college, they should be placeable. They should be industry ready. There should be a collaboration between academic and industry. Even during those 2 years, whatever they study, something new emerges, especially in technology. Because by 2050, if you see, the predictions are every 3 months you will have to update your technology. And one more thing which the organizations have to do is to partner with the educational institutions as a corporate social responsibility activity and find out the skill deficiencies, and encourage the students to do internship, thereby gaining practical exposure rather than the theoretical exposure alone. So it's a process of continuous learning, as Mr. Nagarajakumar said. It's a continuous learning. So there is no age to it. So that is the only way you can have a skilled ready force, which our country is also working towards it.
Correct.
Okay.
The key thing that I would probably talk about here is the key skill more than the technology and all that. It is learn, adapt to grow. If you're not going to learn or adapt, you're not growing, so you lag. So that LAG is not in terms of lag, but it is learn and adapt to growth. I think that is what is important. Like most of us, like Mr. Nagaraj has been there for 4 decades, Mr. Chidambaram for multiple decades, Rishi is for multiple decades, my case also that way. All of us would not have come this far had we not kept that into mind, the learning, adapting and growing, because we would have, whatever we learned in those days are all null and void now. We don't even talk about it. That is where I talked about disruption, right? It's all disrupted. So it's really important that one keeps this in mind, saying he needs to learn, he needs to, for him to grow, and he needs to adapt to the changes if he needs to grow. I think that skill will enable everybody to automatically survive. I'll probably put it that way. Yeah, Rishi.
Yeah, very well said. I think that's a whole message to entire audience here, that learn, adapt, and grow. Just one thing I'll add to it is, don't focus on single skill set. Now is the era when you have to be a T-shaped skill set, T-shaped resource, right? Multiple skills as an individual. You might know HR, at the same time you have expertise into analytics, right? Same, and it's not applicable to like developers or engineers. It is also applicable to the leaders also. They need to be T-shaped. They should know sales and marketing, at the same time they should know the product knowledge, right? So that's where we are, I think, going forward across industry, irrespective of any segment we are talking about.
Well said.
So
Well
I
said.
think we covered all the questions here.
Yeah, one point alone I would like to add, with the nice words of Mr. Bhanu Kumar and Rishi Kumar and Chidambaram. I am remembering 2 proverbs. The first one is, live as if today is your last day. Live as if today is your last day. So live nicely, enjoy everything, live appropriately. Second one is, learn as if you will live forever.
Yeah.
Learn as if you will live forever. So till the last breath, learning continues. That's
Sir, in COVID, we are living like that only, sir.
Okay, so over to you, Pavitra. Thank you.
Sir,
Yeah,
good evening,
Karthikeyan.
sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Karthikeyan, good.
So I have a question for Bhanu Kumar, sir.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
your briefing about the automation AI was wonderful, sir. So I have a question, is like, the current trend is these AI and automation, and you can see this, like, initially the automation and the mechanization was invented to assist human beings in their job, and now we can see it has been slowly consuming the positions of a human being. For example, we can say there's a mop cleaning machine which replaces the place of a janitor. So, and automation also came in cafeteria, which gives the cold coffee and other things. So, how do you foresee the future of HR? Even, for example, there are AI applications which consoles people on a psychological level, wherever it's mental distress. So, HR, as you said, like HRs are like, as a human part, they can console people and they can see things in people. So how do you foresee the future of HR, sir, in this automation era?
Very nice question, Karthikeyan. So let me revisit the slide that I made, wherein I talked about change in roles. Now the point is, yes, there are certain things which will go away. Probably a janitor role is automated and all that, but that opens out something else wherein people can get into. It's like this. We were all used to traveling in bullet carts. Today we have bullet trains, but we also have bullet carts. It's not that is totally dead and gone. But the point is, we take a bullet cart where probably a bullet train cannot go. But where there is a bullet train, we take it. So the point that I'm trying to drive at is, the automations that we are looking at are those areas which are complex, which is prone to errors, or those that are repetitive in nature, which could probably put in a monotony on a human being, and they will probably make mistakes. The examples that I quoted were in terms of loading the documents, validating the documents, and so on and so forth. So when you are able to focus on those things and automate, I as a human being, I as a HR will start focusing on what I am supposed to do. Today, I am part of the board. I no longer am a support function. I am actually part of making board decisions, which means I am enabling the technology for me to understand the data, analyze and make predictions and prescriptions for me to move ahead. So I am part of the business. That's why HR is now a business partner. So that's a new role that has got evolved. Yes, there could be certain things that would go away, but over a period of time, that's where the adaptation that I was talking about comes in. We will adapt to grow this route so that we'll look at it. Like, for example, probably a few decades back, if you look at it, HR was more compliant. Maybe people like Chidambaram sir will know it better. He was into HRIR and all that. We were talking more in terms of compliance. But slowly we evolved, and somewhere in 2000, HR also brought in L&D. L&D was training then, and it was not even part of HR, but it moved. So we will start, see, that's the beauty of a human brain. That is why we say idle man's brain is a havoc and all that. If we are able to focus on what we want to do, there are a lot more avenues that we will evolve, and we could go further down in terms of it. I'll quote probably an analogy wherein we are talking about robotics doing operations. On one side, we have programmers who are developing it. That's a new thing that comes in. But on the other side, a robotic is doing an operation, but it can do that operation in that particular way multiple times. But it cannot evolve. That's where a human being comes in. So you understand what I mean? There is a human intervention that is required, but the level of intervention and the areas where they will have to intervene might orient themselves into a different perspective. That's how I'll probably put it. Yeah, Rishi, if you want to add something.
Yeah, so I know this question is for you, Bhanu, but this is really close to my heart. So Karthikeya, I'll tell you a couple of things. So even though we talk about lot talk about AI and analytics and all that, it's not yet mature. There are like more than 500 type of biases which are baked in by the humans in the models. That's where an example, Amazon actually built a whole initiative to hire people from market based on these AI models, right? Identifying the right candidate. They literally shut down the whole initiative, which is like $1 billion loss to them. But why they did it? Because they found out that when they are hiring the people, there is a bias into it. Okay, they were hiring more Americans than the more Asians, right? More female versus the more male. So those biases are there, and literally it will take. Means honestly, in my opinion, it will take years to have those policies and governance in place to make sure these models are bias free. So even though we are talking a lot, we are not at that level yet where we can say that human is in the loop is not required. And even after 10-20 years also, they will be required, but they would be doing more efficient work, more important work, rather than doing these repetitive tasks and all those things, right? So yeah, means nobody gonna forget about the people part of the journey. So it will always be there. I think in future, people aspect is more critical than the AI aspect or any automation aspect. More focus would be on that.
Yeah, in fact, Amazon had to shelve it. One other reason was because the diversity, equity, and all that equity was lost there. They were no longer a diverse organization, though they indicate we are an equality organization. So a lot of those, in fact, my research is on using technology for diversity, that apart. So there are a lot of such things that happen. You're right, Rishi.
I would like to add, as long as you have creativity, nothing can replace humans. So develop creativity. Only mundane tasks can be taken away by all this.
Absolutely. Hope, Karthikeyan, you got the answer.
Yes, sir. It was wonderful explanation, sir. Thank you all the speakers for this wonderful insights.
Thank you. Yeah, Pavitra, all yours.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think there's many more questions, and all the questions were answered very patiently. Thanks to all the speakers for bringing out a very healthy discussion. And yes, we'll keep learning, as you all said. So I think, can we move to the vote of thanks, speakers?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Now I would like to call upon Ms. Anandita, final year MA HRM, to render the vote of thanks.
The value of a business is a function of how well the financial capital and intellectual capital are managed by the human capital. I, Anandita of Final Year MA HRM, take this wonderful opportunity to thank our esteemed speakers, Mr. Rishi Kumar, Associate Vice President, Pactera Edge United States, Mr. Chidambaram Ramanathan, HR Director, Gaius Networks India, Mr. Bhanu Kumar, Founder Director, ARRA Associates India, Mr. Nagarajakumar Krishnaswamy, Principal Manufacturing Innovation, Innomantra Consulting Private Limited India, for sharing their valuable insights and knowledge of the topic, Global Human Capital Trends. I would like to share a few key takeaways from today's session. Scalability and cloud computing aid in ergonomics. Diversity and inclusion at workforce are imperative and a widespread goal. Driving forces for any organization are enterprise agility and intelligence. Overall understanding the key challenges and how HR impact the business. Hybrid workforce, a more flexible work option. Contemporary roles in human resource. Automation, exchange of data, dependency on data, and efficient decision-making processes. Scenario planning is a tool that can be used for evolving employer-employee relations. Scenario planning talks about 4 major scenarios relating talent and government impact. We, as the future HRs, would really work on the understanding provided by our lively speakers. Sharing is caring is an age-old proverb. True to this thought, I would like to thank our PG Department of HRM's pillar, our HOD, Dr. N.C. Martin, for arranging this webinar, and our Professor Sneha for her support to organize this webinar and providing us with an enlightening tour to the pragmatic arena of HR. Finally, I extend my gratitude to participants from various professions and students. Kindly fill up the feedback form which is provided in the chat box. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for the insightful
Thank you
sessions.
all the panel members.
Healthy.
Thank you,
Thank
Martin,
you.
sir.
Thank
Thank you,
you to
everybody.
all the panel members. Yeah. So really a very wonderful
Thank you,
session
Martin,
we
sir.
had.
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Martin.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chidambaram sir. Thank you, Nagarajan sir,
Thank you, sir.
Bhanu Kumar sir, Rishi sir.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.